Well, it's really one of the great moments for me. I was an assistant coach for Chuck Daly on the Dream Team, and we just won 2 national championships. You think you're pretty darn good, and all of a sudden you're with David Robinson and Magic and Larry and Drexler and Barkley and Mullen and Ewing and Stockton and Malone and Pippen, and then there's Jordan. And it was after our first practice. I felt good because they didn't make a mistake their first practice. And
Mike Krzyzewski coached more basketball greatness than almost anyone in history. 5 national titles, 3 Olympic gold medals, more wins than any other coach in NCAA Division I history. And behind every one of those milestones was a relationship. A player who trusted him, challenged him, or pushed his system to the limit. Coach K's legacy isn't built on ego or fame. It's built on his eye for talent, his ability to mold individuals into teams, and his instinct for recognizing greatness long before the world catches on. So when he names his favorite players, it's not just about scoring titles or highlight reels. It's about leadership, sacrifice, IQ, heart. And across 4 decades, through Duke, Team USA, and beyond, these are the 6 players who left the biggest impression. Let's get into it. But before proceeding, please take a second and subscribe and like this video. It will be very motivation for us. Mike Krzyzewski's admiration for LeBron James goes beyond highlight reels, box scores, or even championships. It's rooted in shared experience, the kind of mutual respect that only grows when you've stood shoulder to shoulder on basketball's biggest international stages. Coach K coached LeBron across 3 Olympic cycles, 2006, 2008, and 2012, and witnessed firsthand the transformation of raw potential into fully realized greatness. In those years, LeBron wasn't just dominating the NBA, he was learning how to lead a nation of stars, and Krzyzewski was the man tasked with helping him get there. Their partnership began with some tension. In 2006, Team USA finished with a disappointing bronze at the FIBA World Championship. LeBron was just 21, already a superstar in Cleveland, but still growing into his voice. Coach K knew he needed to lead differently, not with an iron fist, but with trust and accountability. He challenged LeBron not just to score or defend, but to set a tone, to be the first voice in the huddle, the first body on the floor. LeBron embraced it, slowly at first, then fully. By 2008 in Beijing, everything had changed. Team USA, now dubbed the Redeem Team, came into the Olympics under pressure. The roster was loaded: Kobe Bryant, Dwyane Wade, Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony. But it was LeBron James who became the emotional core of the group. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the one who brought cohesion to a team full of alpha talent. Coach K never forgot how LeBron handled it. He praised his maturity, his communication, his willingness to adjust for the good of the team. He saw a player who could go from vocal leader in practice to silent enforcer in games, doing the little things, rotating on defense, making the extra pass. LeBron was the ultimate team guy, Coach K said. Whatever we needed, whenever we needed it. In the gold medal game against Spain, a contest far closer than most expected, LeBron made a series of crucial reads in the final minutes. Not all of them ended in points. Some were hockey assists, some were quick rotations, but Coach K saw it all. The situational awareness, the poise, the mental control. He trusted LeBron like a coach trusts a point guard. By the 2012 Olympics, the dynamic had shifted again. LeBron entered London fresh off his first NBA title with the Miami Heat. He was now a fully formed force, physically, emotionally, and tactically, and Krzyzewski gave him more freedom than ever. LeBron responded with one of the most dominant Olympic performances in Team USA history. He averaged 13.3 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per game. Modest on paper, but with impact far beyond the stat sheet. In the semifinal against Argentina, he took over with a 10-point flurry in just a few minutes. In the gold medal game against Spain, again a nail-biter, he buried a dagger 3 and followed it up with a fast-break dunk to seal the win. Coach K didn't just coach LeBron through these moments, he trusted him to own them. And LeBron, in turn, never forgot that trust. He called Coach K one of the best communicators he'd ever worked with, someone who could get superstars to check egos, play roles, and focus on the mission. But Krzyzewski's respect for LeBron isn't limited to Team USA. He's praised LeBron's adaptability across different NBA eras, how he evolved from explosive slasher to high IQ playmaker, then to spacing savvy shooter and leader in transition. Over 2 decades, LeBron has averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists across more than 1,400 games. He's won 4 championships, appeared in 10 finals, and captured 4 league MVPs. Coach K has pointed out how rare that kind of consistency is, not just physically, but mentally. LeBron doesn't just play the game, he sees it 2 or 3 steps ahead, he once said. He manipulates coverages like a quarterback. Even off the court, Krzyzewski has applauded LeBron's commitment to leadership through the LeBron James Family Foundation, his I Promise School, and his stance on social issues. For Coach K, that matters. He doesn't just value players for their stats, he values them for how they represent the game. What separates LeBron in Krzyzewski's eyes is sustainability. He's been great, not just once, not just for a few years, but for nearly 2 decades. When Coach Mike Krzyzewski talks about Michael Jordan, it never sounds like he's describing just a basketball player. He's describing a standard, a measure of excellence that every player he's coached since has had to live up to. Their relationship started decades ago, not in a college gym or an NBA arena, but through mutual respect and shared values. Coach K didn't coach Jordan at Duke. Jordan played under Dean Smith at North Carolina. But once their paths started crossing with Team USA, especially in 1984, and again during the Dream Team era, something clicked. Krzyzewski saw what most fans saw: the killer instinct, the gravity-defying athleticism, the defensive intensity, the ability to make every possession personal. But what struck him even more, and what would influence how he coached for the rest of his life, was Jordan's discipline. Michael Jordan was not just competitive, he was methodical. He wasn't improvising greatness, he was building it 1 rep at a time. His workouts were ruthless, his drills were deliberate, his accountability brutal, even toward himself. Coach K once said, Michael didn't just want to win, he wanted to dominate, and do it the right way. His standards were unshakable. That's why Krzyzewski often brought up Jordan when coaching his own players at Duke and later with Team USA. Not because they could become Michael Jordan, but because they could emulate his mindset, the work, the competitiveness, the refusal to coast. During their time with the Olympic teams, Krzyzewski saw firsthand how Jordan's presence elevated the room. Every player, from seasoned stars like Magic Johnson to young college players like Laettner, felt the intensity rise when Jordan laced up his shoes. You couldn't fake it around him, you had to earn it. In the 1992 Dream Team practices in San Diego, Coach K watched as Jordan routinely set the tone. Not with speeches, with effort. He sprinted through drills. He clamped down on defense in what were supposedly light scrimmages. And when the offense broke down, he didn't complain. He found a way to fix it on the fly. It wasn't flash, it was sharpness. Even more impressive was Jordan's ability to learn and remember. Opponents who played him once in November would see him again in March and realize he knew every one of their moves. Coaches weren't just game planning for him, they were adjusting to him, because if you gave him the same look twice, he was going to burn you. That basketball IQ was no accident. Jordan studied the game obsessively. He watched film religiously. He learned players' tendencies like a coach. Krzyzewski, who's built his entire career on preparation, admired that deeply. But Jordan wasn't just detail-oriented. He was relentless. And Coach K saw that not just in practice, but in big moments. The 1992 Olympics weren't especially close in terms of final scores, but Jordan's approach never wavered. Whether the US was up by 30 or tied in the first quarter, he played like every point mattered, because to him, it did. That's part of what made him so special in Coach K's eyes. Jordan didn't just love to win. He hated to be anything less than excellent. Even when the outcome was secure, his process didn't change. And that mentality extended beyond just his own performance. He expected the same from his teammates. He pushed guys. He demanded engagement on both ends of the floor, not because he wanted control, but because he believed greatness only happened when everyone bought in. When Coach K was building the 2008 Redeem Team, a squad with LeBron, Kobe, D-Wade, and others, he referenced Jordan constantly, not to pressure those guys to be him, but to remind them what it meant to lead like him. He told them, Michael's not great because he scores, he's great because he never let up. Statistically, Jordan's resume is hard to argue with. 6 times NBA champion, 6 times finals MVP, 5 times regular season MVP, 10 scoring titles, 9 all-defensive first-team selections, and 2 Olympic gold medals in 1984 and 1992. But for Krzyzewski, the impact went deeper than numbers. It was about how Jordan made people feel when they watched him play. He gave audiences belief, teammates urgency, and opponents fear. In Coach K's world, where excellence is the expectation, not the exception, Jordan wasn't just a player he admired. He was a model. Not because he was perfect, but because he never stopped working to get better, even when he was already the best. And that's why, when Mike Krzyzewski names his favorite players, not just talented, but transformative, Michael Jordan isn't just on the list, he's at the top. For Coach Mike Krzyzewski, coaching Kobe Bryant wasn't just a professional milestone, it was a lesson in intensity, commitment, and what it means to chase perfection. By the time Kobe joined Team USA under Coach K's leadership, he was already a global icon. 5-time NBA champion, 2-time scoring leader, one of the most ferocious competitors basketball had ever seen. But what surprised Krzyzewski wasn't the resume. It was the mindset, the relentlessness, the obsession. In 2007, as the Redeem team began preparing for the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Krzyzewski expected Kobe to lead through example, play hard, defend, bring the energy. But Kobe had other ideas. He told Coach K in no uncertain terms, "I want to guard the best perimeter player on every team. Not Dwayne Wade, not LeBron James, Kobe." Krzyzewski didn't argue, he just nodded. He later said that moment set the tone for the entire team. "When your best player is willing to do the dirty work, there are no excuses," he recalled, and Kobe delivered. In Beijing, he didn't lead the team in scoring, that was Wade, but he led in something harder to measure: intensity. Every defensive possession, he was in a stance. Every rotation, sharp. Every scouting report, memorized. He wasn't there to put on a show, he was there to win. Krzyzewski saw the effect immediately. Younger players fed off Kobe's effort. Veterans followed his defensive tone. Even in practices, Kobe was the first to arrive, last to leave. Coach K remembered walking into the gym at 6 a.m. during training camp. Kobe was already drenched in sweat, mid-workout. His intensity was unmatched, he said. He didn't waste a moment. And when the moment finally came, the gold medal game against Spain, it was Kobe who saved Team USA. With just under 3 minutes left, the lead was down to 2 points. Spain had rallied. The crowd was tense. And then, Kobe Bryant hit a deep three with a hand in his face. He turned, calmly, and put his finger to his lips, silencing the doubters. That shot shifted everything. Team USA pulled away. Gold secured. Coach K said later, "That shot, that leadership. That's why we needed Kobe." But his appreciation for Kobe went beyond medals or buzzer beaters. What Krzyzewski admired most was how Kobe approached the craft of basketball. In team meetings, Kobe asked questions no one else thought of, about footwork, spacing, the angles of screens. He wasn't just trying to play the game, he was trying to master it. Krzyzewski, who'd coached countless All-Americans and NBA legends, said Kobe stood out because of his single-minded obsession with improvement. Kobe didn't view basketball as a game, he viewed it as a discipline, something sacred. And that resonated with Coach K, who had spent his entire career preaching detail, fundamentals, and mental toughness. Even after the Olympics, their bond remained. When Duke players asked Krzyzewski about NBA role models, he often mentioned Kobe, not because of the talent, though it was elite, but because of the mindset. "You want to know what preparation looks like?" he'd say. "Watch Kobe." That admiration flowed both ways. Kobe had grown up watching Coach K's Duke teams in the 90s. He respected Krzyzewski's military background, his no-nonsense demeanor, and his loyalty to his players. "Coach K doesn't sugarcoat," Kobe once said. "He tells you the truth. That's what makes you better." Their relationship was built on that mutual respect, a kind of mental shorthand between two people who demanded excellence, not just from others, but from themselves. Krzyzewski often noted that Kobe didn't just love basketball, he studied it. In film sessions, he'd analyze opponents' habits, down to which foot they jabbed with first. He wanted every edge. That preparation, Krzyzewski said, made him a defensive savant. Not just a scorer, but a technician on both ends. And yet, for all the accolades, Kobe never acted above the team. In a room full of egos, he checked his at the door. If a teammate missed a rotation, he didn't just yell, he'd pull them aside and walk them through it. If someone was slacking in practice, he'd challenge them. But he'd back it up with effort of his own. Krzyzewski saw it all, and it stuck with him. When Kobe passed in 2020, Coach K was one of the first to speak publicly, not just as a coach, but as someone who had shared the trenches with him. He called Kobe one of the greatest competitors the game has ever known, and a true student of basketball. Even in that grief, Krzyzewski's voice held something deeper: gratitude. Gratitude for having coached a player who never asked for special treatment, only for challenge, who gave everything, who raised the standard. When Coach K talks about his favorite players, it's not just about talent, it's about commitment to excellence. And in that category, Kobe Bryant is near the very top. If there was ever a player who defined Mike Krzyzewski's early legacy at Duke, it was Christian Laettner. Not because he was the most talented, although his skills were elite. Not because he was universally loved. In fact, he was one of the most hated college players of all time. But because, for 4 straight years, Laettner became the extension of Krzyzewski on the floor. Composed, ruthless, and committed to winning in every sense. Coach K coached countless All-Americans during his 4 decades at Duke, but Christian Laettner stands alone as the most decorated player in school history. From 1988 to 1992, he played in 4 straight Final Fours, a feat unmatched in the modern NCAA tournament era. He won 2 national championships. He hit one of the most iconic shots in college basketball history. And through it all, Krzyzewski trusted him like few others. Laettner wasn't the flashiest athlete on the court. He didn't jump the highest or run the fastest. But what he brought was poise, decision-making, and a competitive arrogance that Coach K absolutely loved. In Krzyzewski's words, he never backed down. He wanted the ball in the biggest moments, and he delivered. That mindset was forged early. Laettner came to Duke as a skinny, relatively unknown recruit from upstate New York. He wasn't a McDonald's All-American. He wasn't even expected to start right away. But he listened, he learned, and he worked hard. Krzyzewski, who had just taken Duke to national prominence in the late 80s, saw something different in Laettner. He wasn't intimidated by pressure, he didn't rattle in hostile environments, and he wasn't afraid to be the villain. In fact, he seemed to thrive on it. By his sophomore season, Laettner had emerged as Duke's go-to big man. But it wasn't until 1991 that everything clicked. That year, Laettner led Duke to its first national title, defeating the defending champion UNLV in the Final Four and then beating Kansas in the championship game. Laettner scored 23 points and grabbed 9 rebounds in that final. He was surgical, precise, calm under fire. But even that wasn't his defining moment. That came 1 year later, in 1992, in the East Regional Final against Kentucky, a game many still consider the greatest college basketball game ever played. With 2.1 seconds left in overtime, down by 1, Grant Hill threw a 3/4 court pass to Laettner at the free throw line. Laettner caught it clean, took a single dribble, and buried the shot at the buzzer. Final score, Duke 104, Kentucky 103. It wasn't just the shot that impressed Coach K, it was the entire game. Laettner went 10 for 10 from the field and 10 for 10 from the line, a perfect performance under the brightest spotlight. Krzyzewski said after that game, he doesn't feel pressure the way other people do. For him, those moments are invitations. That consistency and mental toughness made Laettner the perfect college player in Krzyzewski's system. He wasn't just a scorer, though he finished with over 2,400 points and 1,000 rebounds in his career. He was a communicator, a decision maker. He could shoot from deep, post up, run the offense, and defend multiple positions. Coach K built his offense around Laettner's versatility. They used him in pick and pops, high post initiations, and baseline flare actions. He was smart enough to read the defense and skilled enough to punish it, and Krzyzewski trusted him to make the right choice every time. Their relationship wasn't always warm. Laettner could be stubborn, emotional. There were moments of conflict, but Krzyzewski respected that fire. He didn't try to mute it. He tried to sharpen it. He wanted Laettner to lead, not just by scoring, but by holding others accountable. He had an edge, Coach K said years later. He wasn't afraid to confront a teammate or call someone out. And that's what we needed. We needed someone who refused to settle. That refusal carried over to the highest level. In 1992, Laettner became the only college player selected for the original Dream Team, a roster that included Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. Many questioned his inclusion. Why not Shaq? Why not Alonzo Mourning? But Krzyzewski, who was an assistant coach on that Olympic staff, knew why. He earned it. He said, "No college player had a resume like his, and no one I ever coached was more prepared for that stage." Laettner didn't play many minutes in Barcelona, but his presence mattered. It was a statement that college players could belong, that Krzyzewski's system could produce professionals with the mindset to contribute at any level. To this day, Coach K credits Laettner for helping transform Duke into a national powerhouse. Before Laettner, Duke was respected. After Laettner, Duke was feared, and that shift was built on toughness, trust, and the ability to thrive in the biggest moments. When asked years later to list his all-time Duke greats, Krzyzewski didn't hesitate. "Christian Laettner is the standard," he said. "He wasn't just great for a season. He was great for 4 years. That's rare in college basketball, and that's why Laettner remains one of Mike Krzyzewski's all-time favorites." When people talk about the most complete player Coach Mike Krzyzewski ever coached at Duke, one name rises to the top: Grant Hill. Elegant, unselfish, versatile, but above all, consistent. Hill wasn't just a great athlete. He was a model student, a leader, and the connective tissue that held some of Krzyzewski's most successful teams together. In many ways, Hill was the bridge between eras, the player who carried Duke's rising dynasty into the national spotlight and helped sustain it with poise and class. By the time Hill left Duke in 1994, he had become a 2-time NCAA champion, a consensus All-American in the face of college basketball. But his story with Coach K started in 1990, when Hill arrived on campus as a shy but gifted freshman from South Lakes High School in Reston, Virginia. From day one, Krzyzewski saw something rare. Hill was 6 feet 8 inches, long, fast, and smart, but he wasn't in a hurry to dominate. He learned the system. He played within the team. He accepted a role behind established stars like Laettner and Bobby Hurley, and he thrived. As a freshman, Hill didn't need to score 20 points a night. His job was to defend, rebound, and make plays in transition, which he did with stunning efficiency. In Duke's 1991 NCAA title run, Hill played crucial minutes in the Final Four, including a breakout performance in the championship game against Kansas, where he scored 10 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, and threw down a legendary alley-oop dunk that shifted momentum. That dunk wasn't just a highlight, it was a signal. Grant Hill was coming, and Coach K knew it. By the 1992 season, Hill had grown into a co-star. While Laettner and Hurley got most of the headlines, Hill became the glue guy, the two-way wing who could guard 4 positions, rebound like a forward, and facilitate like a point guard. He averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, but those numbers didn't capture his impact. In the 1992 NCAA championship game, it was Hill's all-around play that quietly decided the contest. He scored 18 points, shot 7 for 9 from the field, and played lockdown defense. Krzyzewski trusted him to initiate offense, break presses, and cover for teammates. He did it all, without fanfare, without drama. Coach K later said, "Grant Hill was the most balanced player I ever coached. Physically, emotionally, mentally, he could do everything, and he never needed the spotlight to do it." Hill's junior and senior seasons were different. With Laettner and Hurley gone, Duke became his team. And under that pressure, Hill blossomed even further. In 1993 and 1994, he led Duke to back-to-back Elite Eight appearances. As a senior, he averaged 17.4 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 1.7 steals per game. One of the most well-rounded stat lines in college basketball. He was a finalist for both the Naismith and Wooden Awards and a consensus first-team All-American. But more importantly, he upheld the program's culture. Krzyzewski has always emphasized maturity, humility, and team-first thinking. Hill lived that. He came from a family that valued education and character. His father, Calvin Hill, was an NFL running back and Yale graduate. That upbringing showed in how Hill carried himself. He was never flashy, never loud, just professional, even before he became a pro. Off the court, Hill was the type of player who made teammates better. Younger players looked up to him. Opponents respected him. And Krzyzewski leaned on him, not just for big shots, but for leadership. "He was someone I trusted with everything," Coach K once said. "If you asked me to pick one person to represent Duke basketball, I'd start with Grant." One moment that captured that trust came in the 1994 NCAA tournament. In a tense Sweet 16 game against Marquette, Hill had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. One of the most complete games of his college career. He controlled the tempo, hit clutch jumpers, and neutralized Marquette's best scorer on defense. Duke advanced, not because someone had a hot night, but because Hill imposed his rhythm on the game. That rhythm continued into the NBA, where Hill became a 7-time All-Star and was considered the heir to players like Scottie Pippen and even Michael Jordan. But Krzyzewski never judged Hill by his pro career. What mattered to him was what Hill did at Duke, the way he elevated the program's standard and became a model for generations of Blue Devils. And even years later, that relationship stayed strong. In 2013, when Krzyzewski was asked to reflect on the most impactful players of his career, he singled out Hill again. There's talent, and then there's stewardship. Grant was a steward of our program. He set the bar. He wasn't just one of the best to ever wear the uniform. He was one of the best teammates, best people I've ever had the chance to coach. That's why, when Coach K talks about his favorites, Grant Hill is always on the list. Not because of one shot or one stat line, but because over 4 years, Hill embodied the very best of what Duke and Mike Krzyzewski stood for: preparation, poise, selflessness, and excellence. For all of Mike Krzyzewski's accolades, 5 national championships, 3 Olympic gold medals, more than 1,200 wins, he's always believed that coaching was never just about systems. It was about people, and no player embodied that ideal more than Magic Johnson. Even though Coach K never coached Magic in college or in the NBA, their paths crossed in the most meaningful way. The 1992 U.S. Olympic Dream Team. That summer in Barcelona wasn't just history. After announcing he had tested positive for HIV, it shocked the world. But less than a year later, he was back, selected to lead the most talent-packed roster in basketball history. And while Chuck Daly was the head coach, Mike Krzyzewski served as one of his key assistants. That's where he got a front-row seat to something few people ever see. It wasn't Magic's stats that impressed him. It wasn't the no-look passes or the room he walked into. When the Dream Team met for practices in San Diego, Magic was the first guy on the floor. He was the first voice in the huddle. He led drills with intensity, barked at teammates to hustle, and laughed with them 2 seconds later. He could joke with Larry Bird 1 minute, challenge Michael Jordan the next, and still make Christian Laettner, the lone college kid on the team, feel like he belonged. That's not something you draw on a clipboard. That's leadership. That's trust. Krzyzewski later said, Magic was more than a point guard. He was a connector. He was the guy who made greatness function as a team. In scrimmages, Magic's impact was even more obvious. He didn't care if Jordan scored 30 or if Barkley dunked on someone. He just wanted the ball moving, the offense who dominated those Dream Team practices, credited Magic for setting the tone. We all wanted to win, Jordan said, but Magic made sure we all wanted to win together. For Coach K, that was unforgettable. Here was a man coming back from a life-altering diagnosis, out of the league for over a year, surrounded by alpha scorers, and yet he was the emotional fulcrum of the team. But Krzyzewski's respect for Magic didn't begin in 1992. Like every coach of his generation, he had watched Magic's ascent with awe throughout the 80s. Magic entered the NBA in 1979 and immediately made history. As a 6'9" point guard, he redefined what the position could be. Most point guards were small and quick. Magic was long, powerful, and had a court vision that felt supernatural. In his rookie season, he averaged 18.0 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 7.3 assists, then capped it off with 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, while playing center in place of the injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He won Finals MVP as a rookie. That's never been done since. Over the next decade, Magic would collect 5 NBA championships, 3 league MVPs, and 9 NBA Finals appearances. But for Krzyzewski, it wasn't just the resume. It was how Magic played the game. He made it joyful, he made it elegant, and he made it smart. Whether it was the fast break, Showtime Lakers, or a half-court setup, Magic made decisions quicker than most coaches could draw them up. He read defenses like a chess master, not just seeing the next move, but the next 3. And that's the part Coach K admired most. Krzyzewski has always valued cerebral players, guys who anticipate, who see angles, who understand rhythm and timing. Magic wasn't just athletic. He was tactical. He changed tempo with his eyes. He baited defenders with patience. He made stars like James Worthy and Kareem more effective simply by maximizing their strengths. And then there was his selflessness. Magic finished his career averaging 11.2 assists per game, the highest in NBA history at the time of his retirement. But he could have scored more. He just chose not to. He chose to elevate others. That's what Coach K teaches every day. That basketball isn't about the most points. It's about the most impact. And Magic Johnson was impact personified. Years later, when Krzyzewski coached the Redeem Team in 2008 and 2012, he often used Magic as an example, not just as a legend, but as a model for communication, connection, and culture. Magic made it cool to be a teammate, Coach K once said. He made it powerful to pass. He made leadership look like joy. That's why when Krzyzewski names his favorite players, not just in terms of talent, but in terms of everything that matters in basketball, Magic Johnson will always be there. Because for Coach K, greatness isn't just about what you do. It's about how you do it and who you bring along with you.